Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I'm here with Kyle Bridgan from NSS Home. He is located in Tacoma, Washington. Really excited to have you on the show. Welcome to Builder Stories, Kyle.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, so why don't you give us a little bit of background, kind of tell us, what do you do? How did you get into construction? What's NSS Home about?
Yeah, so I started the company in 2017. I wasn't the best employee, and so I had a job beforehand. I was like a countertop guy for a while, and then I got let go or laid off or fired, whatever you want to call it. And I ended up like selling countertops on OfferUp actually, and then one thing kind of bloomed into another, and through like various situations, I basically ended up doing bigger and bigger remodels and learning lessons kind of the hard way. Um, I started off very heavy on the countertop side, and then started getting into like kitchens and bathrooms because it's all kind of connected. And now we run a design build firm out of Tacoma, and then we're opening another branch in Bellevue. It's open now. I shouldn't say that. So yeah.
Awesome. So started off kind of doing countertops. I imagine those were kind of very focused projects. Little bit kind of smaller scale, but then because your customer said, "Hey, can you kind of do the rest of the build out in the kitchen?" That sort of led you to take on those larger projects.
Yeah, we took it. It's a lot easier running that like single trade specific, when you're just doing that. And but I don't, you take care of people and you treat them right, and they want you to do more and more stuff. But it was definitely a big learning curve, kind of jumping into like full remodels, like bigger stuff like that, because it's a little bit harder to keep track of the numbers, a little bit harder to estimate stuff. And also I
Yeah.
had to learn how to like sell stuff. I had no idea. I come from the field. I'm an operator, like technician type guy. So yeah, it's kind of making that mindset shift to getting into sales and being like a CEO is a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different set of different set of challenges and skills that kind of go along with it for sure. So are you still doing work in the field, or have you completely gotten out of the field and just kind of running the business?
Yeah, I'm running the business now. It's too big for me to do that. Like every once in a while, if there's something really crazy, I'll come in and like project manage it a little bit and be like, well, it should probably look like this or this. And then I'm very involved on the design side of things. I like to be there for all the meetings to make sure that we're not, you know, designing something that's never going to get built because the designer wants to put in solid gold toilets or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. So what's your team like? What's the full team look like today?
So we have 7 technicians. So like in-house, like field guys, or 7 total. And then 2 of them are PMs. I have a project manager and then a logistics manager. And then the rest is just like, guys that are, one of them's like a really good finished carpenter. One of them specializes in countertops. One of them is, like a runner. And then, yeah, basically like, that's like what the labor side looks like. And I've found that kind of way of like operating things and like running things like that, like I forget, the organizational chart is
Mhm.
really helpful because you have the logistics manager who handles like ordering a lot of stuff and handles like talking to the client, and then the project manager just puts his heads down and build. That's Chuck in a truck. Bob is his name actually, and he's like a basically he's forgot more about construction than I've ever learned, and so he's able to kind of build the project. So yeah.
Yeah. And then kind of what about like who's doing sales? What's that process?
I'm
Marketing?
still doing the sales, which I'm a little bit hesitant to let go because I'm pretty a little bit experienced in sales at this point. I'm kind of getting my win, and I have both minds. I have like that sales mind and then also the technician mind, and so it's very hard for me to let that go necessarily. I teach sales and remodel commander, which is like Lane's thing, how we got introduced. So so yeah.
Very cool. And I guess kind of so you're looks I guess about 6 years in now. what was kind of the growth from, I mean, obviously when you first started, it was just you. Like, when did you start bringing on those people, onto your team, and kind of how did you make the decision on when to hire, who to bring on, what roles you wanted to sort of fill early on? Because I know a lot of people struggle with, deciding when is the right time, and who do I bring onto my team first? Like, I've only got so much cash flow. Like, what was it for you that sort of helped you start making those moves?
So, getting into like basically, I mean, my mantra is like sell it first and figure it out later, right? So we, maybe that's I don't know, yeah. But so basically, we would sell these jobs and they'd be like really big, and then I'd call my buddy who was a tile guy. I'd call my friend who was knew something about this and call them and then have them kind of get in there, and then throughout that as it evolved, we had to start getting better subcontractors. I can't just do work on evenings and weekends, and so um yeah, I mean, it's does that answer your question? Sorry.
Well, I mean, so it sounds like you started off, maybe a little bit scrappier, just kind of whoever you can find to help you out, but then you decided you needed to bring them on full time. Like, was it kind of looking at the number of projects you had, or like kind of looking at your revenue that you sort of felt like, okay, we can afford, to bring on a full time employee?
Well, really, to be straight with you, it was a lot of like dumpster fire type projects where you have like your buddy start something and then he has his 9 to 5 job and then he can't come finish it. And so you have to call in another subcontractor or another friend or do it yourself. And so that was really what led to growing and having to bring in more in-house employee. We don't actually self-perform a lot of work, which I think is an advantage actually. I think it's better that way. Maybe just doing like the in-between stuff and like having what we call a SWAT team take care of like the in-between stuff with the sub trades and then the actually punch list at the end. I think that's how a lot of like really successful GCs are actually built. And that's kind of the way that we found some success in that and able to manage more jobs because we run about 14 jobs at a time. Right now it's 11, but we have capacity for about 14.
All right. Yeah, no, I think that actually sounds like an awesome approach. I'm getting a pool build right now, and I'm like at the tail end of it, and it's like the punch list is there, and it's like I feel like there's like very little movement. I'm just like, man, like, but I think it's probably because they're relying on those same trades, those same subs to come back out. They got, busy schedule, hard to kind of get them in there. So it's like, man, if only there was like a, somebody else who could come in and kind of just do the final punch, like we could get out of this job. And I think it's so important. Like, what I'm realizing and kind of some of the advice I'm giving others is like, man, like at that tail end, that last, 10-20% of the project, like even if everything else like didn't go great, like this is an opportunity to come and win that customer back over,
Mhm.
by being awesome, being responsive, tackling all those small little details that just need to get over the goal line. I think that's like such an important time to show up and show up good. And it sounds like kind of you being able to bring in your SWAT team and taking that part on in-house makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. How you start and how you finish the job is gonna be, your first and last impressions. It's just like when you're dating or whatever, that's very important. It's like what the homeowner is gonna be left with. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, what's it been like kind of going to a full design build model, and, kind of tell us sort of, about that transition? Because again, I see a lot of contractors who, one, I mean, they might not even understand the difference. Maybe you could explain that too, but then kind of, did you have to bring on a full-time designer, or do you have, a design partner that you're leveraging here for the designs? Like, how does that work?
So, okay, so any designer that you work with that's worth their weight is going to already work for themselves, in my opinion. And so, rather than bring that design in house, what we've decided to do is partner with independent designers because one, they're better at giving you a deliverable. You have to kind of manage it a little bit because not all designers and architects are created equal. But two, also they they're a good referral source. I mean, we get $2 to $3 million a year just from our architects and design partners, and
Yeah.
so that it's a really easy way because the customer journey of like purchasing like making a large investment like that doesn't necessarily start with us. Typically, it'll start with an architect or a designer, and they'll be the homeowner's advocate through the project. So if you can get to them first, you're going to have a lot better luck, getting those bigger projects. And there's no competition. Like, I mean, think about it. Your designer's like, you have to use this guy. I'm not using anybody else. Like, I want to work with Kyle. Then it's a done deal.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you've been able to form relationships, it sounds like, with these architects, designers who are then kind of like bringing you into their deal that they've essentially sourced. And then you get to just kind of, come in with that warm lead. Hopefully you're the only one that they're putting forth. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's very old school. Like, the approach is more like, let's have coffee. I show them what we're all about. I show them that we have our shit together. I don't know if I can cuss on here. Sorry. I show them we have our stuff together. I show them that we have like a process and that there's actually like steps to the things, and like just having that is gonna make them, because they're your client just as much as the actual person you're building stuff for, in my opinion. And so them seeing that's gonna make them feel safe and feel comfortable referring you.
No, that's a really solid point. I mean, is there any sort of financial relationship between you and these architects and designers? Like, I mean, are you giving them referral fee? Are they giving you referral fees, or is it just kind of like they know that you'll get the job done, and ultimately that's going to make them look the best and provide the best experience at the end of the
So
day?
designers make their money typically on materials, and then also on, like, the time that they charge for drafting. Some of them will come in, like, really low on the drafting side and then make up for it on the material side because they don't really make a ton of money on, like, the drafting side. It's more to cover their overhead, and so what we've done is we've created a way around that, which what we do is we don't mark up materials, and so they may do that. They usually supply the cabinets or, the fixtures or whatever, that's fine, but when it comes down to it, we have an invoice from them. We're not playing that game of like, "Oh, we marked up your cabinets 30, 40, 50%." We put that what would be that is it would be like project management instead. Um and so that's a way around it. That's a way that they are like, "Oh, I don't have to fight this guy," because it comes to be a point of contempt where, the homeowner or the contractor has this competing agenda where they're like, "I wanna mark up the materials 30, 40, 50%," and then the designer also wants to do that, and then you end up with a faucet that costed $100 and now it's $300. It's just crazy, so.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, really, I guess you're in this situation. You're coming in and you're providing all the project management, the labor, the actual execution of the build,
Mhm.
but you've got the designers, architects who have essentially kind of designed out, laid out, flushed out all the details. They've made all the selections. They're providing you kind of here is the job, here's what needs to be done, and you go and you take it from there.
Yep, and then with the architects, we use the jobs as, like, carrots, right? So, like, if there's an architect that I know that's just after it, right? They're crushing it. I will find a job in, like, their area, like, because we do retail too, like, the homeowners sometimes come to us first. We'll take the scan, and we'll give them that job, and then we'll just, like we'll be very, like, attentive a little bit more than we even normally would and just be, like, on top of it, and then, give the architect and the homeowner a really good experience throughout that design process because it's very collaborative. It's like it's like I'm there throughout the meeting, guiding it through. The PM is there, the logistics manager is there, right? Like most contractors, they're like they're basically here's the keys, here's the design, do this thing, and then we'll come back on the back end and build it. Like that's crazy because you have all this opportunity to build rapport, you have all this opportunity to like build this really good relationship with them, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds like you've really, by kind of not having to, sort of make your money on the material markups and on all the design fees, it sounds like you've really found a very, healthy balance where, both of you kind of know your role, stay in your lane. At the end of the day, that helps like kind of make sure that the customer is getting the best possible product and that everyone involved is incentivized and focused on doing their part. Yeah, love it. Sounds awesome. I mean, have there ever been any times where it's like you and the architect or designer kind of got at odds and like sort of customers getting caught in the middle?
Well, so yeah, I like actually kind of like developed this process around that because so when I met Lane, I'm very much so like I work with Lane very, very intimately, right? Like Lane is the owner of Remodel Commanders, if whoever's watching this. And it's like a consulting company to help you build a design build company, basically like putting rocket fuel in your gas tank. And so when I met Lane, Lane was like, dude, those designers, those architects, like, no, we're not doing that. Like, you want retail customers. And I was like, okay. And so we tried like running ads and we tried doing that. And I'm pretty scrappy with marketing. I do a lot of like Instagram and all that stuff. But I ended up finding out that I don't know if it's a Pacific Northwest thing. I don't know if it's other stuff, but these people who are spending like these, $500,000 remodels, they're not starting with me. They're starting somewhere else. And so I was like, all right, I got to find out a way to kind of do this. And so I did that against Lane's wishes. And now we have kind of like a whole program around it. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious. So like, what you said you've been working with Lane and Remodel Commanders. I mean, like, what led you to get involved with that group, and kind of like what did you feel like you were really struggling with, that kind of led you to want to kind of go and find a consultant, somebody who could help you, through all that.
Yeah, so it started in 2018. About a year in, I ran into like Tom Reber and all those guys, and I actually learned a lot from them. Like that was good. I think that's a really good rung on the ladder as far as like consulting goes. When you're a contractor, because that'll get you off the ground. You could do $1 million with just Tom's advice. You probably do too now because everything's expensive. And then from there, I worked with a few others. I worked with Lee Height. I worked with Brian Diamond. I've always been kind of like an information junkie a little bit, but I also an implementer. Like I'll do it. And then after that, I went and worked with. I saw Lane, and Lane was like, "Hey, man, come check this out. Like this is what we got going on." And I was already doing design build. I just didn't really know it. I was just doing it wrong, and it was very like cluttered and unorganized. And I was actually gonna quit and get into exteriors. So I was like, I still like exteriors. It's very in and out. It's fast
Yeah.
money. You know what I mean? And so I was gonna do that, and I was talking to him, and he's like, "Why not just give this a shot? Like you're already doing it, and we already have the reputation built for it." So I was like, "All right, fine." So we were at about $2 million a year, or like 1.7-ish, $2 million, kind of chilling there for 2 years. And I had just done like a really large commercial project earlier that year, and I lost like over $500,000 on a big project. It was crazy just because of
Ouch.
the disorganization. And so Lane kind of helped me put those building blocks in place to like organize it, be a better business owner. This is how you send out work orders. This is how you organize the subs. This is how you make the schedule. This is how you communicate with the home. All those little things that we don't really think about because the design build business model is very complicated. And so he helped us get very much more profitable, get out of that debt. It was crazy. So yeah.
Wow. So wait, you lost $500,000 on one project?
Yeah.
Can
At
you
Little Caesar.
tell us a little bit more about that? Because I mean that's a pretty big it's a pretty big lick to have to take. I mean, I could see that putting a lot of people under.
Yeah, it
How
was.
were you? How did it happen, and how did you work through that?
Well, I built it was a Little Caesars job, and it was supposed to be, I just basically took the architect's plans and went with them, and there was a ton of stuff missing from those plans. I don't wanna throw the architect under the bus because 'cause I'm kinda working with her, but but yeah, regardless, there was a bunch of stuff missing. I estimated it. The job was for, like, a friend, colleague type person, and so, and it was PPP money, and so there was only, like, X amount of money that you could, like, change order them for, like, that it, like, until it overran. I don't know how that works. It's like government money and all that stuff, right? And so, but anyways, they basically had capped out at like 300 grand, and then it ended up costing like about 8 to produce.
Hmm.
And so which is insane to me that it cost over $700,000 to build a pizza to make one pizza. Like, you know what I mean? Before you build one. But anyway, that's a side story. Yeah. So long story short, I had to produce the project. I was on the hook for it. I had change ordered them. They ran out of money, and I didn't feel right just like closing up shop or whatever. Maybe I'm stupid. I don't know, but and so I ended up taking these like really aggressive merchant cash advance loans, and it was pretty nuts. Yeah. So on the tail end of that, I basically had to sell myself out of that, and it put my back against the wall.
Wow.
And I think it was a good thing though. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Man, that's That's awesome that, you didn't throw in the towel and give up and just write it off and kind of say, "Hey, look, we, can't do it." I mean, you honored your word and your contract. You delivered on it, and, I know it can take a long time to work yourself out of that situation, especially when you've taken on, expensive loans that are compounding, and it's just like, it's a very, kinda quick downward spiral that a lot of people just they can't stomach and they can't work themselves out of. So, I love your approach saying, "Man, I just gotta sell my way out of this," and, sounds like you've been able to do that completely?
Yep, yep, yep. It was not easy. I actually am very lucky that I met Lane because I mean, I don't wanna say, like, I wouldn't have done it, but it would've taken a lot longer, and I also met my, one of my business partners, Peter, who runs the handyman division, and, he helped me out a lot. I actually bought my house from him. It was kinda
Yeah.
weird we met that way. But yeah, anyways, he helped me out and, he worked for me as a PM. He was like the first PM. So he's kind of been in every role, so he, like, understands the structure of the company. So, yeah, shout
Yeah.
out to Peter.
Man, that's awesome. So, I guess what would you say the biggest changes you made after going through that, how did you safeguard yourself to make sure that that never happened again?
Airtight designs, airtight even more airtight estimates, having, like, subcontractor overage allowances built into your estimates. So you have, plumber tells you it's gonna be $6,000. You say, "Okay, it's $6,000," but then what we do, instead of, like, having this pool, which most contractors do, where they come in at the back end and change order them, I would bake that into the estimate and be like, "Yeah, here's the subcontractor overage allowance," and then just add, like, $200, $300, $400, and that all compounds, and then you have, like,
Mhm.
this slush fund to pull from so that you're not having to go through the paperwork and the process of basically doing that, so, yeah.
And so you're setting that up kind of as like an allowance. If it doesn't get used or isn't needed, is the client still charged for that,
Well, it
or
gets
are they
used.
not?
It gets used in other ways. I mean, there's slippage in
Okay.
construction. Oh, on we work on
Mhm.
historic homes, so I haven't really ran into that. I would, and that's a question I get asked a lot. I think that's the risk we take as a business owner, and to be fair, like, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So tell us a little bit more, like what's your estimating process look like? I mean, how do you do that today versus kind of what you're doing before, and kind of what would you say your biggest lessons from estimating have been?
Before it was, "Hey, what do you think this will cost?" Or, "What do you think this will cost per square foot?" Or, "What do you think," call my buddy and be like, "Can I get, like, a bid on this?" And then, half the information would be missing. You'd get there, you'd try to build it. It would be a total show. Yeah. Yeah, and then, but now it's more like we have, like, a process for it, so we'll use, like, clear estimates, or we'll use, like a outsource an estimator, not to take to the bank, but to get it, like, roughed in, and then we'll fine tune that, and we also do what's called a trades day. So, once we have, like, the work order set out, so it's like, "Hey, this is exactly what you're doing," like, say for electrical, right, on a big kitchen. "This is exactly what you're doing, this is the scope of work, this is how many outlets, this is how many lights, this is how many dimmers, this is how many blah, blah, blahs being replaced." Then we do this thing called a trades day, where we borrowed it from commercial contracting, where we'll come out there and physically verify all of the existing conditions. That way that they can't come back later and be like, "Oh, well, I need, $1,000 for this," because that's how it happens. And so I think just having that solved a lot of those issues.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's again, before you kind of get yourself in too deep, like being able to make sure they come out, everyone's on the same page, got that final, kind of the final estimate, all the details ironed out. I think it's always better to take a little bit longer to do that than to have to get into the change order situation. Change orders never feel fun. From the end consumer, point of view, it's never fun to feel like, oh man, like why wasn't that taken into account earlier and yada yada. But then, I mean, from the contractor's point too, I mean, there's a lot of, reorganization you got to do. You're having to figure out things. You're having to take these new factors into account that, it changing up the schedule in the middle of a job is obviously not ideal either. And so, I think to the extent that you can take a little bit extra time, do that trades day. I mean, that's a great idea.
It also it makes the homeowner feel a little bit safer because they're like, "Oh, like, this is the crew who's coming to work on my house," like, and they see it and it becomes
Yeah.
real. It's a little bit harder to back out of a project after you have a big party with 20 contractors, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah. Nice. So then once you get that job sold, what does it look like from a project management standpoint for you? Like, how are you kind of orchestrating the schedule, getting everybody out there on, at the right times, things like that?
We just follow the remodel commander's process has like a 127 step build SOP, and basically we just follow that. We build out the schedule, get everything set up. Once we start the job, the first couple days are just like setting up and getting out there, and then once we like once we have like the schedule built out, we're very communicative. We have like daily logs. I mean, I could go on, but yeah, you get it.
Yeah, nice. And so, what would you say like have been the biggest challenges that you think that you've had to sort of overcome, that have sort of taken the business to the point where, now you're ready to scale it? Because, it sounds like earlier on, kind of smaller projects, sort of unorganized, you now have a system in place, you've got processes, you're following it. What would you say kind of like your biggest lessons learned, and what advice would you give to other contractors, that they might be able to hopefully avoid some of the mistakes and the challenges that you've made along the way?
I would say so from a high level perspective. Developing your self-image and feeling, because I come from I'm the oldest of 10 kids. I'm on from food stamps. I don't come from like a lot of money. And so like from a self-image perspective, I had to like really work on that and feel like I subconsciously like deserved to make money. Right. And so that was like a big thing, a big problem for me. But then to get like nitty gritty, not being spread out and taking projects that are smaller than, your like what you should be doing, because you can reach 3 million two ways, right? You can reach 3 million by selling 2 jobs that are 1.5 each, or 3 jobs that are a million each, or you can do it by selling 100 or 30, right? You get what I'm saying? And so I think it's easier to do that with the 3 jobs, right? It's the same, everything's the same process, right? You got to have the electrician, the plumber, the tile guy, all these kind of people come in. And so doing that over and over again, having like a repeatable process it makes it easier, especially when you're, when the ticket's a little bit higher.
Mhm.
That's one thing I've learned this last year specifically.
Yeah. So being able to kind of have the confidence to come in and sell a much larger job
Mhm.
is kind of, you would say that has been a good move and easier than to have to go sell 100 smaller jobs where it requires the same coordination, the same planning and effort, even just because it takes fewer days, you're still that kind of incremental effort that it takes to do each and every one of those smaller jobs you find is a lot more of a headache and I guess a time sink and a cost than if you could just kind of focus on those larger projects.
Right, like we only have like a certain amount of projects that we can build in our life, right? I mean, it's finite. It really is. And so why waste time with people that are going to pay you what you're worth, or are going to be a pain in the ass, or going to be, take a lot of like management, a lot of it's the same thing every time. And so, just be a little bit more selective
No.
with that.
Now you mentioned earlier though you have like a homeowner division, or I mean a handyman division. Is that the case too? I mean, how does that kind of interact with the design build side?
Yeah, so that supplements the design build side. That part of that feeds into if we get overwhelmed and we have to self-perform things, if we have to do like, smaller jobs, because as a design build company, the homeowner doesn't know that. They just see construction company near me. They call the person, "Do you do light bulbs?" You know what I mean? And then somebody's got to do the light bulbs. Why throw that away? And you can get
Yeah,
actually bigger margins on those smaller jobs because, there's minimums and stuff, and so it's easier to do.
gotcha.
We don't
So
wanna throw that away.
do you are those is that all under the same brand or is it kind of two separate brands?
No, it's 2 separate brands. The brand for the handyman is the Gentleman Handyman out of Bellevue, and then the brand for the design build is NSS Home, but they feed each other. So, like, we work with a lot of, like, realtors, and realtors can be a waste of time, but sometimes if you work with the right ones, they can lead to really big profitable projects. And so what we do, we'll come in there and, realtors need all these, like, stupid pain in the butt things done, like water heaters and, just little stuff that you would never want to do. But if you're that guy for them and you've got them in there, you're able to take care of them in that way. I mean, it's a done deal as to who they're going to choose for the big projects.
No. So you see that kind of as like let's get in there, establish, a relationship, kind of do a couple small little things, but then are you also sort of looking for those upsell opportunities, those, hey, would you ever be interested in this, redoing your kitchen? And then is that sort of like a we know someone, or we have a referral, or is it it's a sister company, or like how does that kind of upsell handoff referral work?
Yeah, I don't really see it from that side because I'm operating NSS Home for the time being. But basically, someone calls me and they have like a bathroom, right? Like we don't do like just a bathroom unless it's like a huge master bathroom or something. But they'll call me and I'll be like, yeah, I'll come out there and take a look at it. And we come out there and then we're like, well, this kind of doesn't look like it'd be like a great fit for us necessarily. But I have this guy, he actually worked for me for a while, and he knows all the systems. It's the same process, similar team, similar, all that. And I think he'd be a much better fit for this part. Would it be okay if I just, introduce you to them and then boom, and vice versa?
Oh, nice. Yeah, seems like that. It's kind of gives you the best of both worlds, so that you're not having to turn the customer down totally. To some extent, they might actually even earn you that respect, that you didn't just either take on the project and not do a great job, or just walk away and say no, good luck. I think it's still nice that you were able to be a helpful resource to them, to make sure that they are getting their needs met, and then again, hopefully they call you in the future.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Easy referral source.
Nice. So is it challenging though, like to have these two different brands, like from a marketing standpoint? Are you do you have like, are you running these as two entirely separate companies and
Yeah.
kind of different?
Yeah.
Everything's
100%,
different.
yeah. But we don't really have a problem with marketing. I'm a marketing psycho. I'm, like, on Instagram, I do videos, that is not a problem. The problem is putting it all together.
Yeah. Like, so actually, well, when you say putting it all together, what do you mean?
Like, actually building the projects, executing them, that
Gotcha.
that seems to be more of our challenges, like, as a whole. It's not
Okay, gotcha.
necessarily getting the projects at all.
So as a marketing extraordinaire, like what have you learned? Is and kind of what advice would you give to others, like that? From a marketing standpoint, what do you think is the most important, you know, thing to do with marketing first? A lot of contractors, again, it's they're 1 foot in the tools, 1 foot in the business,
Mhm.
trying to figure out what to do in business. A lot of people don't understand the difference between sales and marketing, how those interact, how marketing can truly support and enable sales. What would you say, like, the most important, aspects of running a business from a marketing standpoint, that are your must-haves?
So, for a guy on the tools, easy way to do it, and you've probably heard this before, pull out your damn phone and start recording some video and, just put it out there. Put it on your story, do some check-ins, take some pictures of your work. But that's not really enough anymore because a lot of people are hip to that. I would say that at least at the very minimum, getting some client interviews. I know it's uncomfortable and it's weird, but just asking that client who you knocked it out for. I mean, think about it. You spent like 3 months of your life building this homeowner a kitchen and, doing all that. Like, the least they can do is, a quick little video. Maybe you do, "Hey, I'll do the outlets in the other room for free if you, do, like, a little video for me. I really need this marketing thing." Just something like that. And then doing, like, an exit interview so that you have proof. So, like, when a homeowner asks for a reference, it's like, "Okay, I can take you to a job site right now, or you can check out this YouTube video, or I can give you a list of homeowners' phone numbers." I always challenge homeowners when they ask me that. And then being on Instagram, being on Facebook, being on Nextdoor, just being on all of those things and getting your footprint out there as much as possible. I mean, direct mail can work, but not really for, like, luxury stuff. It's more for, like, maybe on the handyman side, that kinda thing, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And what about
we could talk about that all day. Like, it's
what about, like, advertising? Like, what have you found, Google ads, Facebook ads, boosting your reels, like, where have you seen that to be effective?
I a lot of the stuff with advertising, like, direct response advertising, so, like, making, like, a VSL, like, the VSLs of video sales letters, like, "Hey, my name's Kyle. I own blah, blah, blah company. Here's a kitchen we did. Come call us for work." I don't really think that that's the best approach. I think a better approach would be, like, a long play, which would be, like, to build a portfolio which is your social media. Your social media is essentially your new business card in the 21st century. And then to more like get those like belly to belly interactions, because the more and more that we get into this like digital age of doing things, people are very impersonal and they don't want to, actually talk. People are scared to have a conversation, especially people who are under 30 years old. And so if you're that guy who's like showing up and actually like there and you're, meeting with people and you're making them feel special, that kind of thing, then it really like sets you apart. But
Yeah.
Facebook ads do work.
So what about like Facebook ads?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Facebook ads do work,
Do
but
you go ahead?
no, you're good. You're good. Good.
Yeah, so like what about though from like a website standpoint, blogs, SEO, where do you see all that fitting in?
So as somebody who ranks very high on Google, our average position on the little 3-pack thing is 1.3. I think it's 1.4 now. Anyways, I don't see a ton of value in that on the luxury side. On the SEO side, yeah, it's cool, but I think SEO is kind of changing because the internet's evolving, right? And so you're competing against companies like HomeAdvisor, House, all these like big, and like how are you going to they spend billions of dollars to get in front of homeowners every year. How are you going to compete with that? And so I think a better way to do it would be, like I said, social media, doing that kind of thing. But whatever, let those people do that. I mean, yeah, SEO is still important, like to rank, to show that you're an authority person. But like doing things like this are good too. Like I'll probably get a backlink from this, and then somebody can Google my name, who's a homeowner, and then they might see this, that kind of thing. And then they'll watch this
Yeah.
video for 3 hours, and yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, but like would you, I got to believe like everyone's got to have some sort of a website, it's kind of like your face of the company, when I see someone who, comes out to bid on some work or I look up a company and they don't have a website, I'm like, "Wait, is this even a real company?" You know, you're saying that you think you just don't need to constantly crank out, you know, blog posts and just content after content every single day. It's more about kind of leveraging social media
mhm.
to create that awareness. What are you driving them back to though? Because I mean, you got to somehow convert them. So
Yeah,
is that, you
and
have
that's what the
conversion pages on
website's
your
for.
website?
Yeah, that's what the website would be for. And then video content. We have like a little sales process where when you're in it, there's like a little video that gets sent out to you, like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. Get ready for your site visit," all that kind of stuff, and just like being like friendly and getting in front of them a bunch of time. You need like an average of, I think somebody said there's like 7 pieces of content and like 40 minutes of it. And so if you have all that stuff out there and they can creep on you and do all their due diligence and find you out there, then it's a done deal. Who else? They're not going to pick. They'd rather pick that guy who they know before it gets out to their house than some scary 60-year-old knuckle dragger guy who's maybe does great work, but
Yeah. So you see like really leveraging video and social to build that brand and kind of build the persona and where people sort of they've seen you, they've heard you, they've been able to feel like they're kind of, there in that, experience that you've captured, and that you feel like is what's like ultimately just warming them up to the point where they're finally ready to reach out.
Mhm.
And then when you come out on site, they're like, man, like I feel like they already know you.
100%. I get a lot of the time, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like I get a lot of the time, like I come out to the house and the homeowner's like, "I didn't think you'd be the guy coming out here. I thought you were just like the owner," And I'm like, "Here I am. Like, let's do it."
Yeah.
So
Nice. Are there so like from a YouTube standpoint, because like I mean we have also had tremendous success with YouTube just putting out content. Like, are there any particular kind of like types of content that you feel, are the best suited to kind of do that initial warm up, kind of really capture their attention, and then once you've got their attention, do you shift the content strategy?
most of our so we haven't really done a lot of long form content. The most of the long form content that we do is more to rank. So like YouTube's still like a it, it's in the Columbus days right now. Like you can get in there, you can make a video and be like, best contractor in blah 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 city, and then put a video of your work up there and you talking like, and you'll rank like maybe number one if you do it right. Um, and so there's that, but I use YouTube for more like exit interview type stuff, evergreen content, that kind of thing. But YouTube is definitely something that we're shifting towards, as because short form content's lifespan is really it disappears, right? Like it's gone. It lasts
Yeah.
about a week. So, but yeah,
Hmm.
definitely YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is awesome.
Are you like what other platforms? I mean, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. Like kind of what would you how do you prioritize where you're putting your content, the short form?
I think it all works collectively. Like it's like an ecosystem, right? So like you've got TikTok for, those people who are under 30 years old. There are some like older people on there now, but most of those people have parents and grandparents who are looking for remodeling. And so they'll see you on there. We had pretty good success with TikTok, just for some fun videos. It wasn't really like anything serious. Serious stuff
No.
doesn't too well on there. Instagram's more for, pretty stuff, more evergreen stuff, also some meme kind of thing. We focus pretty heavily on Instagram. Facebook's basically a mirror of Instagram, and then using your personal profile is another one. Yeah.
So how do you like do you have both kind of a personal Kyle brand and then also an NSS home? And how do you kind of manage the business versus the personal brand? Because like from our experience, we've seen that like I could post the same content on Job Tread's page and then also on my personal page, and my personal page will get like 10x the engagement, and it's like the exact same content, the exact same video. So it seems like, Facebook and the algorithms over there are very heavily skewed towards, the personal brand, where you got all the friends and the people kind of that are connected to you versus the corporate side. So how do you balance, where do you guys focus?
Yeah, I've focused a lot on the business side, but in doing that, that's kind of become my personal brand. Like I have a personal Instagram, but I don't really use it.
Yeah.
And then, using your personal Facebook page, though, is a good one. Like you said, you get, like, 10x the engagement. I noticed, yeah, we have, like, whatever, and then we post something on Facebook, and it gets 6 times it's like, "What?" Like, "What?" I don't even have that many friends. Like, "What the heck?" Yeah. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird.
Yeah. And I mean, even like, I think, one thing that, our marketing team's been kind of pushing me to do more is like share to my story and the reels, and like, those I think are more designed towards like finding people who you're not already connected with and friends with to kind of like make those connections versus like, just publishing in your own feed to your existing friends. It seems like kind of starting to mix in, the reels and the shorts and the stories is also a great way to keep building that kind of brand and that network and kind of getting it out there to more people than you may already know.
100%. 100%.
Anything else from like a marketing standpoint that, that you think people may be overlooking or undervaluing or just not understanding in general?
I would say, developing relationships with people that are around your ideal clients in any way, shape, or form that you can, whether it's real estate agents, mortgage loan officers, designers, architects, title people. I mean, you name it, dude. Home inspectors, weird stuff like that, right? Going to networking events and getting out there, doing that old school stuff, but then also shining a light on that stuff and like recording it with video and showing that you're doing stuff, that kind of thing. Um, I think
So
that's
you're like actually going out to like a local, real estate meetup or whatever it may be, and then creating content at those events, even though it's not directly, related to you, but it's just like you're creating some content and awareness that you're putting out there, and that's kind of what helping bring more of those people who are in that network to become aware of you. Is that the
yeah.
strategy?
And then also, like, um, if we're working with, like, a new designer, like, we'll do, like, maybe we'll do, like, a YouTube video together. Maybe we'll do, like, something together, and they can share our audience. We can, like,
Nice.
cross-pollinate our audiences together. So if you're a contractor and you're just starting out, that's a great way to just, like, slingshot your brand is like, "Oh, this designer," and typically, the designers have a pretty good presence, right? They have, like, 3,000 followers or whatever, and you can do some, like, co-branded content with them where you're just talking to them. One, you're associated with them now, and so the homeowners who look at them look at you and are like, "Oh, duh,"
Mhm.
that's who I
Yeah.
hire. And then two, people are gonna basically like associate you two together, and then you'll probably gain some of their following. They already have your ideal client, so why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great advice. So tell us a little bit more. So earlier you kind of mentioned like, you started it in Tacoma, but you've opened up an additional location, and I think that one might be with Lane. Like, kind of what's that process look like? What's the expansion plan here, and how have you set that up?
It's very much so in its early stages. We have the designs all set up, but the infrastructure of it is just bare bones. Like we have a WeWork studio. It's nothing crazy. We're just, we just need like a war room so that we can basically plan everything out and have our calendar and do it. And that's the same thing that I'm at right now. Like so our 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 goal is basically to find designers, right, that want to have a showroom. And so we wanna be like Starbucks inside of Safeway or Starbucks inside of Publix. And so, basically, there's that tiny little Starbucks in the corner. We don't want any branding on the outside of the building, and we just we'll build them out the showroom at cost, and then we'll come in there and we can basically set up a whole entire office out of that designer's office. And, typically, if you're in a designer's office, there's gonna be some projects that are gonna fall into your lap. It's an easy thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's what we've done.
Nice. That sounds like a great strategy. So, are you looking to do that in more cities?
I wanna get Bellevue and Tacoma, so we have that, like, South Sound chapter of the Pacific Northwest kinda smacked, get it up to, like, 10-15 million, and then look for another one, yeah.
Nice. Okay. So 10-15 million is kind of the goal for each location, each market there,
That would be
and then you
probably combined. That's about what the South Sound and up there could probably handle. You might be able to hit 20, but yeah.
gotcha. Okay. But then it's basically just a clone, same model, same playbook. Go in there, do that in a new market. Would you are you thinking you stay kind of in the same region that you're in, or are you looking at going, maybe coming down here in the south, or going over to the East Coast, or kind of how do you decide where to go next?
The West Coast is a good market. I mean, we have a little bit more affluent clientele than most people. It's a tech hub. Maybe we go to Oregon. It's very hard to run business here, but because of the political side of things. But yeah, but it is cool. Yeah, I would probably go down the West Coast a little bit. I wouldn't go to California, but something like I don't know. Yeah, it's in the air.
Yeah. Nice. So what's kind of the bigger vision here? Like, where do you want to see the company, in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would like to get the company to a point where we can kind of expand. We have like a little blueprint for like, hey, this is how you do it. This is what I did in Tacoma. This is what I did in Bellevue. Have that blueprint going with Lane, and then hire some more people on the design build side so that we can expand that vision and make that like kind of like a model. And then step back a little bit and help out. I'd like to give back to the contracting community because this is a very hard road that a lot of people are probably going to be taking in the next 10 years. And because we're running out of tradesmen, and there's a very much so a need and a demand for contractors. And so I'd like to, me and Lane's plan is that I can help out with remodel commanders with a little bit of research and development and project, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, how has kind of the labor, demand shortages, are you seeing a lot of concern about, what could happen in the next couple years? Like, are you guys struggling to find people to come and do the work, or do you have any concerns about that moving forward?
Not necessarily. I mean, we have a pretty healthy influx of labor, but the problem is finding like good labor. Like we want the best of the best, right? Because we that's what the homeowner is paying for, and so it's been challenging to figure that part out. It's not to say like incompetence, but just like it's really hard to take a young kid from 20 and then teach him everything and then have him go and join the union because that's who we're competing against here, you
Hmm.
know. So.
Yeah. Well, that's it's definitely it is a challenge. You've got kind of the balance of experience, versus someone who's young and hungry and moldable, you know, often at a cheaper cost. But there's kind of the training and all the, we're gonna make a bunch of mistakes along the way, and we're gonna have to learn from them and clean up after you. I do see it being kind of a balance between, well, you want senior people, but then at the same time you want the hungry, motivated guys who can learn your process and fit in and kind of willing to play ball with you. Definitely see a lot of people sort of struggle with, what's the healthy balance between those.
Seriously, yeah, we've found that sticking a younger kid with, like, one of our best guys, at most times, like, that runner kid when he can, like, we found that that's kind of a good environment because we all had to learn, and it's very hard, and a lot of people are very hesitant to teach this younger generation for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm just probably the
Yeah.
same way cyclically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, do you have a challenge with other competitors, like companies, when you're competing on projects or, trying to poach your guys or kind of, what's kind of the landscape from a competitive standpoint, like up
I
there for
haven't
you?
had anybody poached. I mean, I think we're like top 1% of remodelers in America, and so I don't really think that we necessarily need to worry about being poached, but, I do lose projects to other contractors due to price, and, we're in a price-sensitive market in the Tacoma. That's kinda why we're going to Bellevue because there's way more yeah, it's a little bit more affluent clientele.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I mean, from a competitor standpoint, yeah, I mean, that's everywhere, though, like, homeowners will just think that way sometimes, like, they think, "Okay, well, I can save, $20 by having this guy do it," even though the deliverable is not necessarily the same, but it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, kind of just in wrapping up here, I mean, if you were to have to start over from scratch, what advice would you give others, that might not understand what it takes to build a business, the roller coaster, that we all go on as entrepreneurs. Like, what would you have told yourself, back in 2017 when you first started this? Like, what do you wish you would have known then that you know now?
So we just kind of did that a little bit with Lane, like, we basically did this challenge where in a year we wanted to well, first it was half a year. We wanted to sell $2,000,000 in a half a year, and then after that, we ended up building it, and so throughout that, the things that I learned, like, if I was to basically get parachuted into a city, I would go in there, and I had no money. I would go in there, I would go talk to other GCs, right? Go get some, like, punch list items and work on the tools. From there, I'd hire a guy and then, have him do a couple things for me while and then maybe sell a couple more of those, those tools, and then I would go and from there, what we did is we went and networked with a lot of designers and realtors and getting around all those people to build that referral source on smaller projects to build our reputation up. Then we went and got our reviews and we built out our website and we did all of our socials and all that kind of stuff and started posting on that. We were doing that the whole time because that's free, minus the website, it's just a minor cost associated with it. And then from there, we do all these smaller jobs, and then while we're building our reputation, we continue networking, we continue working for those bigger GCs, and organically, you create that much momentum and you create that much energy toward that outcome. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Nice. So ultimate goal, new market, selling those larger jobs. You can do way fewer jobs, make a lot more money, a lot easier. Sounds like a great plan, man. I mean, that really is a kind of, I'd say, a nice little in a box. Like, here is something that you could go and execute on in any market. It's obviously going to take a lot of work, a lot of grit, a lot of grind. But it's all about, kind of making the right moves, meeting the right people, doing the right networking, building out that reputation however you can, starting small, working your way towards the larger jobs. Obviously, if you think you're going to come out swinging and land a,
Was
$500,000 whole home remodel and you don't have a single review to show or any projects or really any, subs that have been on the bench working with you for a while. I mean, that's probably not realistic, for a new contractor. But again, it's about kind of getting into the space, working with what you can get, starting to build the momentum, working it, and then eventually, taking those projects, taking those larger jobs, kind of earning that sort of through your reputation and through the work you're doing. You can work your way into the much larger projects. I mean, yeah, it might take, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 2 years, however long it is. But I
could
think having that goal in place and just sort of understanding what process you're following is it's a great blueprint to to all the guys out there that are still sort of early on in that first, like, feel like you're just kind of churning out small projects over and over. Well,
yeah.
I think as Kyle shared here, like, you got to sort of start looking ahead and thinking, what would it take to get to the larger projects, figuring out like how can we, turn this into, from a five or $10,000 project to, a $50,000 project. Like what else can you do from a sales perspective? What else can you do by, trying to kind of, win over that customer and then hopefully get a few more upsells, a few more add-on jobs after the fact. Like, just because they tell you, they only want X today, well, that doesn't mean that you can't get, Y and Z tomorrow,
Yep.
but it's about kind of looking for those opportunities and then, having that confidence to go in and say, hey, we could also do this, let me know when you're ready. I think that is a, really good approach for the guys who are still earlier on. So appreciate you sharing that.
I wish I could hire you to summarize my thoughts all the time. I like that you get it down.
Yeah, well, look, it's been awesome, Kyle, getting to pick your brain here and kind of hear, about the strategies that you've employed. I mean, obviously, you've been doing this for, for a good little while, so you've learned a lot. You've gone through a lot of, ups and downs of the business, but sounds like your trajectory right now is looking pretty good. Just keep doing the blocking and tackling, keep building the businesses. Look forward to seeing you expand into more markets. I think the blueprint that you've proven out here is clearly a good one. So it's going to be exciting to watch over the next, couple of years, see where you go next. Definitely curious what city you pick. Obviously, making the right market choice can have a big impact. Like you said, if you're in a price, sensitive area, that can obviously make it harder to get in there and, win jobs when you got, higher price point. But what's the point in selling a job if you're not going to make any money? You're just wasting everybody's time. So you got to make sure, you got the right product, you can sell at the right price point in the right market. So sounds like you've sort of figured out the secret sauce there. It's going
Little
to be interesting to, yeah, hey, it's still a work in progress. Obviously, you got
Yep.
to keep adapting and adjusting. But just again, I appreciate you sharing this with everyone, with the job trade community here. Everyone listening to this podcast. I think is very insightful, and excited to see where you take the business.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.